the levers of power are changing. The technology and social networks and the way that we do things is just driving this different approach to power. And so we're trying to understand it. We're doing it through analytics and through stories and through interviews like this one. Welcome to Masters of Influence. I'm Jeff Lair, and I'm very excited about this episode in which we're diving into something that affects every single one of us, the erosion of individual power in the digital age. And we're doing this through Jesse Tuttle's story. Now, he's also known as Hacker Jack, a former hacker who once found himself on both the FBI's most wanted list and Interpol's most wanted list. And he later became a federal intelligence asset and then faced 16 felony convictions in what can only be described as a legal vendetta. And his daughter, Reesë, who just graduated from high school, but get this, she started college at 13, earned her bachelor's degree in computer science at 16, then went back to finish her high school and then has another degree. So she now runs a cybersecurity company focused on scam prevention and awareness training. So this is a family that is deeply tied to how people can use and misuse and engage with your information. And what makes this conversation particularly compelling isn't just Jesse's extraordinary journey from the basement of his parents' house to the federal informant to conviction felon, though it's a good story. It's how his experience with the justice system, combined with Reesë's perspective as someone who just came of age during the smartphone revolution, illuminates these broader questions that we're grappling with. What happens when all our data gets consolidated into one massive database? How do we maintain privacy and individual agency when cameras track our every move? And perhaps more importantly, what do we do when the very systems designed to protect us become the mechanisms of our control? So we'll touch on how Palantir's data collection efforts and consolidation efforts mirror China's social credit system. And both Jesse and Reesë have some interesting comments on that. And talk a little bit to Reesë about how her generation has been trapped by addictive short form content and what it means for democracy when our attention spans have shrunk to 47 seconds. So this isn't just about technology. It's about power. It's about control. And it's about what we're sacrificing for convenience. So buckle up. This conversation gets intense, covers everything from quantum computing threats to why kids can't slide under bus seats anymore, and ultimately asks the question, in a world where privacy is disappearing and individual agency is under attack, how do we take back control? Let's get started. Jesse, Reesë, wonderful to have you join us today. I think it would be great to start with your history and maybe a little bit about that big virus you did that you have to apologize about all the time.
Well, I didn't do it, but I did not also not have a hand in the cause.
Sorry. Okay, so that's one of the things we got to take out. Yeah. So
From
yeah.
association.
No, it's okay. I'll disclaimer everything. But so, I mean, it was literally mid-90s, like 94. I get really excited about dial-up BBS and downloading pirated software. A lot of Doom, Duke Nukem, Wolfenstein, After Dark screensavers.
I remember all of that
stuff. I know, it wasn't that great.
It wasn't good. Yeah, actually, it had the cool games. Like the graphics weren't. The graphics weren't good or at all. But the thinking through was really clever. Like there was a lot of really clever storytelling with almost nothing.
Yeah, now we just have games with great graphics with horrible storylines.
Yeah.
I mean, what's up with that? Anyway.
We have a whole altar full of interns that complain about it every day. But I'm sitting there and I'm I'm learning about pirated software. I'm getting into like downloading it and playing it, distributing it now because I know other people that want it. And I got to wondering one day about how the registration mechanisms work. Because if I go to Micro Center and get this, I have to put in a code. If I'm downloading it, why is it skipping that process?
Oh, interesting.
And so I end up on FNet, IRC, and then AOL chat rooms about wars and diving into this. And I get into software reverse engineering, get into discovering how the mechanisms work, started looking at other things, started modifying some software so that like the menu says different things and just having fun with this. And then through that whole process, learned about finding what we call today 0 days, bugs in the code that make do things that it shouldn't. Ended up getting hooked up with some hacking groups in the mid-90s. Later ended up becoming a defacer, joining what would be considered an early APT group called Hackwiser in 2000. Was with Hackwiser until 03. In 2001, got involved in multiple cyber wars. The first one resulted in the code red virus being released and multiple billions of dollars in damages that I do tend to apologize for. It wasn't necessarily my fault, but
all your fault.
Oh my gosh, Jesse.
I mean, stuff happens. Stuff happens.
So
everyone knows who
else.
released.
So Reesë, you're Jesse's daughter, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So you have lots of commentary on Jesse's, and
Yes,
and
I do.
I welcome that. I think we welcome that here. So feel free to bring the snide remarks of offspring.
I mean, if you're inviting it, you know.
Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
we are. Absolutely.
But is it true that you were on the FBI and Interpol's most wanted list?
According to the paperwork I was handed by law enforcement agencies, yes.
Well,
So
not
how does
just those
that
two
feel,
either.
man? Like, I don't think I've been on anybody's list, let alone.
Dude, I know I'm still on
wanted
so
this,
many
dude.
lists today, but it's a sobering moment, but you have to take in consideration. So it was May 9th, 2001. I get my first knock on the door. It's FBI. And they're raiding. They go through. Well, so it wasn't even. They pull up and they knock on my parents' front door. My parents were sitting in their living room right on the other side of the door. And they already seen all these vehicles pulling in. So they're like, hey, what's going on? Like blacked out vehicles everywhere. And so then they answered the door and they spend like an hour talking with my parents. I have no clue that they're there. And so then my parents escort them literally to the basement where my room was. I was that hacker in the parents' basement.
Oh, tell me it was windowless. Tell me it was windowless.
I had one window that was like yay big. One of those like basement windows, the casement windows that would fold in. That's all I had.
All right, ladies and
No.
gentlemen. So if you want your children to grow up to be on the Interpol's most wanted list,
Don't put them in the basement.
Yep.
so they escorted the. Apparently, they didn't know the "don't invite them in" rule, but yeah, okay. So they invited and then they took you down to the basement.
Yeah, they come in and I hear on my bedroom door and my mom goes, "Why is the door closed?" She always hated me having the door closed. I don't know why. But I said, "Hold on, give me a moment." And if she wanted me to help her like carry clothing up the steps or do something.
Yeah.
And then I hear this voice. "Mr. Tuttle, open the door or we remove it." That was not my dad, not my mom. And
Okay, fine. I'll open the door.
oh shit. So, but you have to
Actually, what
remember,
you did first, tell me the truth. You went and you ran to the window and you're like, no, damn it, I'm just not going to fit. But
no, actually,
Oh my
I was
gosh.
already in CYA mode. So what happened is I opened the door and they come in and they show me the search warrant paperwork. They identified that they're FBI from New York and Ohio, Southwest District of Ohio in New York City. And they say, they do the ultimate cop thing. You know, you get pulled over by an officer. What do they ask? Do you know why I stopped you? So they did. I was so young and dumb. They go, do you know why we're here?
And you're like, well, is it?
That's what I did. I said,
Right.
so is it Bank of Walnut, blah, blah, blah? And they go, nope.
Nope.
You want to try again? And I go, nah, not really.
Oh, no. Okay. So you're a fast learner. You're a fast learner anyway, right? I think the problem is when you go through 5 of the issues and then after that you realize, oh, maybe I should stop telling the FBI what I did. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, not really. They said, does blank, blank, blank ring any bells? And I said, my quote. And when I see, you know, my handlers, sometimes we joke about it, but like, I said, I thought you would have been here 2 weeks ago about that. Always had this view that, like, when you do something wrong, the police are going to immediately show up. You're driving down the road, you're speeding, police pull you over, you get a ticket. Someone calls and reports something, police show up at your house within a couple hours, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I never thought about the fact that they go through this whole like process. Never thought about it. So they said, does this, and I was like, yeah, I thought she'd be here 2 weeks ago on that. So one night I'm a little inebriated. Well, I was always inebriated. One night I wasn't, and I was logging into a financial system. And I mean, I remember looking over at the clock and then realizing, holy shit, I didn't have my proxies in place. I didn't have DNCs. I didn't have my redirects in place. I know for a fact because I had root access at this financial institution. I just set off their IDS, their intrusion detection system.
Yeah.
I knew for a fact I didn't have to check anything.
They were coming. You're like,
They were coming. And I literally already had a whole system rigged up with a button that I could hit and wipe my drives and destroy them. So I was actually in the middle of resetting up my system when I got the knock on the door. So I didn't have to scramble too bad. But they come in, they're identifying, they're talking. They tell me that they're going to start boxing everything up to take with them. And so they're doing this while talking to me. I'm watching all my equipment. Dozens and dozens of computers go out the door. Software, CDs, discs, paperwork printed, books, everything. 2,600 magazines. They took it all. And then they go, Mr. Tuttle, we will be back tomorrow to pick you up for an interview. Don't go anywhere. And I looked at my mom. I looked at them and I was like, can I just go with you?
Can you put me in jail tonight? Please? Otherwise, I'm going to be dead.
So, okay, thank you about that. I'm like, can I go with you? And the guy literally looks at my mom, looks at me, looks at my mom, and she's just straight face. She's straight poker face. He looks back at me and he goes, nah, I think you're staying here tonight.
We'll pick up your remains tomorrow.
That was his name. That was his name.
You know,
Just me.
and they say there's no such thing as police brutality. I mean, that is just that is unbelievable right there.
Dude, it was cruel. It was inhumane. It really was.
But then, so then
funny.
they catch you, they bring you in, and then they recruit you, right?
Yeah, so they bring me in to polygraph me, and then I'm like, look, I'll obviously talk to you about what I've done. You know what I've done. I don't trust all these wires. Let's just sit down and have a conversation. And it took literally like 4 hours for them to get this all figured out, because apparently if you just want to talk to them about what you've done and they let you talk to them, they're trying to screw you. I've learned this. If you want to talk to them about what you've done and they won't let you talk to them, it's because they want to hire you. So I was like, look, I'll talk to you.
All right, good
And-
note for everybody. The FBI,
Nope,
if they won't
nope
let
for-
you just talk.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they're like, so you'll tell us. And I was like, yeah. So the guy gets an agent. The agent comes back. The agent's like, wait, you're going to tell us. I'm like, yeah, I just told this guy that. So the agent leaves and gets his supervisor. That supervisor comes back. Now it's the supervisor, the agent, and the polygraph guy. And they go, you're going to talk to us. I was like, yeah. He goes, I can't have you do that. Hold on. So then he gets the AUSA, the assistant U.S. attorney. Now the AUSA, the supervisor, the special agent, and the polygraph guy are all in there. And I tell him, I'm like, look, let's just have a conversation. And the AUSA goes, shut your mouth. We'll be back. They all leave the room. And about an hour later, now a federal, what are those lawyers called that
District
they
attorney?
eat for free? No, like the free lawyers.
The
Like the public defender.
Public,
Public
it's a
defender.
federal public defender. So a federal public defender, the AUSA, the supervisor, the agent, and the polygraph guy all now walk into the room. And the federal public defender, his name was Ransom Hudson. Great guy. And he goes, so they're telling me that you want to just talk to them. Yep. Have you requested a lawyer? I go, no. He goes, request a lawyer. And I said, do I need one? He goes, request a lawyer. And I said, okay, I need a lawyer. And he goes, okay, your lawyer's now here. I can now legally work for you. So then he goes, everyone out. I need to talk to him for 10 minutes. So they go out and he explains this concept to me that is a proffer agreement. A proffer agreement is where you disclose anything you've done illegal, and the concept is they could just never hold it against you. A lot of people call it like Queen for the Day. And so people start singing. Well, I'm sitting there going, okay, well, this sounds really good for me. He goes, I think it is based on what they've shared with me. And so he said, here's the paperwork. We went over it. We talked over a bunch of things. He brought them back in. And I said, we'd like to start talking to you about things that we are pretty confident, but instead of us bringing it up, we'll let you bring it up so that you're protected under your proffer agreement. And I spent almost every day in their office for 2 weeks. Wow. I was later told that they closed more than 1,000 active case files. And yeah, quite the interesting time. It was really interesting.
So just,
Go ahead.
so Reesë, how many times have you been to jail?
None, but I did get in trouble for breaking and entering once.
Oh, okay. Well, leave
Nice.
something. I was going to say, I mean, yeah, you gotta have some sort of record, right?
Middle school was my peak when it comes to like getting in trouble. So
He was a juvenile delinquent.
Juvenile delinquent.
was.
Yeah.
I was.
So was I, but without the proffer agreement, I'm not saying a damn thing. So,
Okay, let me tell you.
So then you end up on the good side, right? Side
So,
of the
well,
force.
So we're going through this, and this is on
Yeah.
May 10th, the day after the raid. It's before I go through my whole 2 weeks with them, but near the end of the day on the first day I'm with them, they said, hey, we knew a lot of what you shared, or at least we suspected it. We would like to hire you. And the first thing that goes through my head is like, okay,
You're not
they
listening.
want me to snitch. They want me to turn on anyone that I know. And my instant rebuttal was, I was like, for what? I don't know anyone. No one knows me. That was my whole point. And they said, no, not for that. We know that your bread and butter is hacking like Fortune 500s, military units, NASA, federal systems, a lot of universities. And I said, yeah. They said, we have a problem with our security.
Yeah.
You don't say.
We need someone to, and they use the term hack test them. So they didn't use, pen test or bug bounty or anything. We want someone to hack test them, and we will compensate you for each one. Also, you may not be aware of this. You've been on our radar. You're on our cyber most wanted list. You're on the NASA most wanted list, Department of Defense, Interpol, and several other countries, more than a dozen other countries. And I was like, ooh, that's probably not good for me, is it?
It's gonna make travel. It's gonna make travel tough, Jesse.
I still have not left the country to this day.
Yeah.
But they said, yeah. So what we will do is, if you're willing to cooperate and help us at a national security level, we will work to see what we can do with our allies and with the different federal departments, classified and unclassified departments that are not a fan of yours right now. So I spent the next 2 years working for them. It was an absolute blast. Ended up involved in another cyber war post 9/11, took down a human trafficking network and helped secure, I don't even know how many thousands of systems, military and federal, and even a lot of companies, because it was before a lot of the current CI. So CI stands for confidential informant, also known as intelligence assets. So before the modern HCI, human confidential informant, or human intelligence asset framework was put together, is when I was an asset. And so now, from my understanding, there's a lot more paperwork every time you go to have an engagement. For me, it was literally engage, do what you do, secure it, keep your reputation solid, and let us know after the fact. Let us know within about 24 hours. Write up a report. I'm like, I can do that.
That sounds
and
cool.
then once they validate it and verify it, they pay me. Game on. So,
which is awesome until they put you in jail, right?
Yeah, well, that wasn't them. So in 2002, I had knock number 2, and it was Department of Defense. When they found out who I was and what I did, they actually thanked my parents and left. Very bland and basic for me. In 2003, so 2 years into working with the FBI, I got my third knock on the door, and that was the local police that was pretty pissed off and disgruntled with me. So, and that resulted in 16 felony convictions, 4 years, 4 months, 28 days pre-trial house arrest. And
you actually convicted? I thought you were just indicted.
So no, I ended up doing a plea bargain. So after 4.5 years and having a 2.5-year-old little girl that I literally couldn't take to the park, I'm on house arrest. I could not walk onto the front.
You just said, whatever, just let me.
At some point, you just give up. I mean, at some point, the one thing that I was told in my interrogation with the local police is, we have more money and more time than any one person has. We will always win. And they proved that. So they proved that without a shadow of a doubt. And 4 years, 4 months, 28 days on house arrest. I'm going to tell you, COVID was fucking nothing.
Yeah.
Staying in for COVID, that was a cakewalk.
Yeah. Compared to that, that's crazy. So what is interesting about that, though, is looking at it from a power perspective. It's like you said, they have all the time, they have all the money, they have all of the assets. You're basically, whether you did it or not, whether you're innocent or not, apparently they're not talking to the FBI or whatever, they don't care. And so you end up with felony convictions,
This was more like a personal vendetta than a
4 years into the case, they finally, so in 2003, they arrested me. They went on record with the media stating that they think I'm delusional.
Yeah. You're delusional.
Yeah, I'm delusional, all this stuff. 4 years in, they finally admit that they knew that I was an intelligence asset. They knew I had deep ties into federal intelligence communities.
Oh, so they knew time.
Oh, yeah. The whole time they knew.
Yeah. Yeah, read the article. I think they're linked on. I don't even look at my Wiki. I have a Wikipedia.
They're on your
I've been through it. I didn't notice. Maybe I just missed that one. I thought that finally the FBI went and talked to them and cleared it, but they knew the whole time. They were just literally out to get you.
Yeah, that's literally what it was.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a professor at the Asian School of Cyber Law in India. Her class maintains my Wikipedia, but I'm looking here real quick. Yeah, it's titled "House Arrest Now at 4 Years" by Dan Horn, and then the page 2 is set. Tuttle sets record with 4-year house arrest, and then in there, it literally
that's where it says.
Prosecutor. The prosecutor talks about that they know, and they finally confirm that I was an intelligence asset.
And that you weren't delusional at all.
And that you weren't actually delusional, at
Nope.
least not in that sense.
And then in 2016, so now jump forward 13 years, and there's an interview by a former, I believe, FBI special agent that reviewed my case, Michael German, a former undercover FBI agent. He reviewed it and said, yeah, this is exactly a normal confidential human source program asset. Like, this is normal. And, he walked through that. So, yeah.
All right, so I want to come back to this in a minute when we start talking a little bit more about power. But I want to just hear about what you guys are doing together. So you've started a company together, and what are you guys doing now?
Yeah, so I actually started a company, and we do cyber threat research and awareness training at the moment. Essentially what we do is we research scammers and threat actors and what they're doing now, what we predict they're going to be doing next. And then we go and take that and simulate those exact attacks and things of that sort onto companies and try to get them to fail in a safe space to train them how to not fall for scams in the real world where it could actually hurt them. And so I started this and brought on kind of recruited Jesse's team without him knowing. He was the last person to know, coming out of high school. And I asked Jesse if he would be open to talking about his history, because all throughout my high school career, it was something, it's kind of weird now that I'm thinking about it, because now it's like such a well-known story. It's starting to become well-known. Yeah. And all the way up until about 2023, it was something my family just didn't talk about. We never talked about it. And it was mainly because of me being in school. We didn't want any chaos to be brought back up while I'm there. And so if there was ever any chance of it ever coming back up, or him talking about it, or trying to get it flipped, we didn't want to cause chaos while I was in school. So I graduated high school, starting up this company. And I'm like, hey, you made a promise that you would be open to talking about it and start working to possibly get it overturned maybe when I came out of high school. And he's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. And I'm like, look, your team over here, your freelance team's on board, really close with them, great people. And they want to be a part of what we're doing. And I want you to be a part of it. He's like, look, I'll enable you. I will help you in any way possible. Just say the word and I'll help you. And then I was like, okay, well, I need you to start speaking about it. And he's like, screw you. Absolutely not. Anyway,
that is not what I said.
Wrong.
That is not what I said. So
what did you say then?
He said, no, dear daughter.
I told her to fuck off.
Okay.
He did. I was being nice.
That was my exact word. Fuck you, no.
I was being nice. And he was like, absolutely not, that kind of stuff, whatever. And I kept pushing for it over and over, and I kept getting the same response. I was like, look, you promised. You said you would. And he was like, I will, just not yet. Like, now I'm not ready yet. I can't talk about it yet. And one of our friends, Brett Johnson, he's a famous reformed scammer. And we were listening to, well, Jesse, you can actually speak about this a little bit, because this is more of your side of things. If you want to say this part, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so Brett Johnson's a guy that we've met, and he's a convicted reform scammer. The Secret Service dubbed him Godfather of the Internet. A lot of modern day scams originate from him. He authored a lot of that, set most of it in motion. Amazing, phenomenal speaker, great guy, and has become a friend to Reesë and myself. I'm listening to the Brett Johnson Show podcast, season 1, episode 1, and he's talking about his experience as a speaker versus other speakers and the impact that other speakers lack because they are not an authoritative source. And I've heard this. Reesë was telling me this. Other people was telling me this. And when I heard Brett say that and he explained it, that it was the moment I go, you know what? I just need to grow up, do it,
and tell the story.
Because there was multiple parts to it, and there was some parts that he didn't know until I started talking about it. But I remember sitting in the courtroom one day, and the county prosecutor told me I should commit suicide because I'll never be nothing but a liability and a weight to my friends and family, and anyone around me will be pulled down, and I'm absolute trash.
My
That
goodness.
stuck with me. I almost committed suicide about a year later. But I mean, that was a weight that stayed on me for literally decades, 2 decades. And just recently, I kind of let go of that weight because of coming out and talking about it. I mean,
Yeah.
Brett told me one time I was on a phone call with him, and he said, "Look, I have found some of the most therapy in talking about my experience." He goes, "I think you probably will too." And I mean, the more that I talk about it, the more that I've understood about myself, and the better my life quality has gotten. Because I'm going to tell you, walking around for 2 decades with that is rough. You know, my daughter never, I mean, I'm sure you all probably have kids or nieces and nephews. And, you know, as a convicted hacker, I didn't want my daughter to have friends over, and then their friends go, "Well, did you hear about her dad?"
Yeah. The felon.
And yeah, the felon, like, "Did you hear about this?"
Yeah.
Or, you know, so my daughter never had a single friend over to our house growing up.
Wow.
She always went to other people's houses, always went out. And it's not that I didn't want that, but I did. I just did not ever want to put her in a situation that's going to be stressful. I never volunteered for school stuff. And we never talked about it, and I never wanted to go and work to overturn any of the situations about my case. Nothing. Just I wanted to kill it off and move forward with my life,
Yeah.
not realizing that my daughter was going to dig everything right back up when she turned 18.
Oh yeah. No, I see.
That's what kids are
Unlike-
good for.
Exactly. I'm fascinated by it, and I think it's like such an important part of, like, personally my family's history and what we do. And so I was like, I want it to be talked about. And so he called me and he's like, "Hey, I'll do it." And I'm like, "You'll do what?" And he's like, "I'll talk about it." And I'm like, finally you're going to talk about it. There we go. And then that was in October. And then finally we went and he keynoted on stage. I introduced him in February of 24. 24. And that's really what started all of it. And he and I've been working on this company and bringing more people on. And he's been a crucial role in all of that, helping guide me and me understand how to navigate this kind of stuff, and going out and speaking. It's been fantastic. And now I even have, so my whole family is in this.
Alex Karp. As I was doing research for this whole Palantir thing, he was talking at, I think, the World Economic Forum, and he said, you know, they asked us if we could contribute our AI to this not-for-profit organization, and we were happy to do it because at the end of the day, it's really all about behavioral control. And it was chilling and terrifying to hear that. Like, he was just like, this is what we are doing. And it was just the scariest thing I've ever heard.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, he went on to talk about other things, but the way he said it and he paused, it was like,
it's all about behavioral control, you know?
Let's think about that for a second. I mean, most people have watched The Goonies. Most people have watched Pippi Longstocking, or, you know, some of these other like 70s and 80s cult classics.
Yeah.
Where you have that mischievous teenager or those mischievous kids, or the rite of passage of going out and adventuring.
Yeah.
Doing something stupid. Now, not only is everything recorded by the people around you, you know, you're mentioning someone's going to take out a phone and record you and put you on the internet. Yes, that shit happens. But let's just take a moment and look around how many cameras and sensors are in our everyday life. Right here, my phone. I mean, it can
I've
tell
got
you.
3 pointed at me right now, right?
Yeah. I
Sorry,
honestly,
Alexa.
anybody who watches this, I want to challenge you throughout a day, count how many cameras you see from the time you wake up till the time you go to bed.
Cameras and microphones and other sensors.
You might be surprised.
Yeah.
Driving down the road, the flock system everywhere, I'm seeing more and more of, so not just roadside cameras. I mean, traffic is being tracked everywhere. Does that help make the world a better and safer place?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
probably.
Probably.
That's such
What
a
did you
good
think?
example, right? Because we all rely on all of these traffic apps. You know, there was a time when you didn't know what the traffic was and you just had to go drive it and see what happened. And the one who knew better said, no, 4 o'clock in the Bay Area, forget about it. You have to go through over this bridge, you know. But now, because we're all tracking everything all the time, we have this traffic data, and we rely on the traffic data, and we all love the traffic data. Or who doesn't love having the traffic data? But at the same time, it's, you know, to your point, Reesë, that's the convenience factor. But
All convenience. Yeah.
but what are we sacrificing? You know,
Yep.
if because of that you can no longer slide under the seats in the bus and piss off the bus driver, which I'm sorry, but that's kids got to do stuff like that, man. Just,
Yeah.
you know, I don't think that well-behaved children who've never had the opportunity to misbehave, right? They're not well-rounded. I'm sorry.
It's sad.
It's the way it
It's
is.
sad. No,
character.
I agree.
There's character. It adds the flavor of life.
It does.
She's in 8th grade, and I remember getting the phone call that they wanted to bring my daughter in and question her about breaking and entering to the school.
Oh yeah.
And I go, Reesë, what? And they said, yeah, so at a football game, her and some of her friends entered the high school building and went exploring, did all this stuff. And I was like, so she broke in. They said, yes, she entered. I said, so she broke in.
Because the
And
doors
he
were
said,
open, by the
yes,
way.
she entered. I said, what the fuck do you mean? Yes, she entered. You're
Yeah.
saying breaking and entering. He said, well, technically they broke the air barrier because the door was open and unlocked. I said, is that not fucking implied consent when they want to go to the bathroom right inside the door?
Yeah. You're like, I'm a 16 times felon. I know what the hell I'm
I
talking
keep
about.
lawyers on retainer, bro. I keep lawyers on retainer, and I keep them beat.
But but yeah. So now all of a sudden, how dare you go to the bathroom in the inside of the
know.
school? So you broke the air barrier? Is there like is that one of those force fields? You know,
Must
and
be.
it's like
It must be the
blue
force
as
field.
you go through it. You know, the
Yeah,
air
they have
barrier
this
has now
dome
been
around the
broken.
school actually that but
Smarter than Scotty.
I mean I've got one more comment and then we can move like to whatever you wanted to talk about next, but this is like a topic I could talk about all day long. And what concerns me is our privacy. Obviously privacy concerns me because I have a huge respect for privacy, not just my own but others. And
Yeah.
oh sure, information is everything, but just having the decency to respect privacy is important. So yes, I'm a big privacy advocate, but when I even see the behavioral shift between generations, that is more of what I find terrifying because I think the use of technology has changed the behavior and literally the way our brains work in my generation compared to your guys' generation, because I see things like TikTok, and I don't want to even get into the privacy of all these apps. I'm just going to talk about the science behind like short form content and things of that sort. Short form content is horrible. It makes your attention span horrible. And it's like there's people that literally cannot watch a video now without having like Subway servers playing right here. That is sad. Like that is sad.
Yeah.
And there's people that can't read books or they say they can't read books anymore. There's people that say they can't just sit down and watch YouTube videos anymore because their attention span is so fried from short form content. And what's up with, okay, TikTok was the short form content thing. You went to TikTok for short form content if that's what you wanted to do. Now, I go into Snapchat. Snapchat has it. I go into YouTube. YouTube has it. Facebook has it. Instagram has it. X has it. Everything has Reels now. Why? Like, since when? Back in the 2010s, social media apps were known for specific things. Snapchat was for like instant snapping and disappearing messages. Facebook and Instagram,
Yeah.
where one was for older people, one was for younger people. That's how we saw it.
That's right.
It
That's what my
sounds
daughter
silly,
says
but
too. She's just a couple of years younger than
yeah, and Twitter, it was for tweets, just for tweets. YouTube, long form content, YouTube creators. Musically, before it was TikTok, short form content. When all these apps started adopting short form content, it was when they saw how much usage TikTok was getting because how addictive short term content was, and that's a lot of money. And now
Yeah.
all these companies are adopting it, and it's frying our brains, and now we're becoming
And it's-
reliant on all this other stuff.
Yeah, not only is it frying our brains, Reesë, it influences behavior.
It does.
It influences
1000%.
behavior. And so people do stupid. Did you see this challenge where people were dancing outside their car? You know how many people crashed their cars? Where they would
I
step
know.
out of their driver's seat and they would dance outside their car, and then their car would drag them, or their car would get on a hill and go down and crash into another car. It was ridiculous. Like the stupid things that you would do
I
that
know.
you
to
would
get
normally.
the attention.
And this is what's crazy to me is, I mean, if you've ever read The Art of War, it all talks about psychological warfare. And I feel like this, just a small little fraction of it, is such a prime example of psychological warfare. You don't think of things out, and you don't think about consequence and effect, and you can change people's behavior simply by just what you're showing them, and they're willingly watching it. And when I see movements and organizations and nonprofits and apps literally being made for how to kill addiction, how to go back to a minimalistic lifestyle without technology, there's literally a movement to shift back to what we are, but it's impossible. That's why I know that people are literally trapped. And that is so scary. Like, I deleted TikTok 2 years ago. I have Instagram, and I deleted that, but I still have to go back to it because of how much stuff is on Instagram. All my friends are there, everything. And I go into Instagram and I just want to see what people are up to. And the first thing I see is Reels. Why? Instagram isn't a Reels platform. It's not. Why are we doing that? And I go into YouTube. The first thing I see is Reels. It's not a Reels platform. Why am I seeing that? And that's scary. It's for a reason. Companies wouldn't adopt this thing so widespread if it wasn't for such a good reason.
You're absolutely right. And it's there is another study, I was just looking it up while you were talking, that is from a addiction recovery center, Reesë Recovery is just the first one that came up. But in this team did some research in the early 2000s, and they found that the focus shifted to new things roughly every 2.5 minutes on an electronic device. Which at the time we were all saying, oh my God, now nobody can pay attention to a lecture because now we're changing every 2-3 minutes, right? And now they've repeated the same study and it's down to 47 seconds. And I do think that means that what you're doing, I think, okay, and I'd be interested what you guys think of this, but I think that is some sort of psychological warfare, whether people realize it or not. But you end up giving so much power to the content generators, to the people who can create an emotional connection, rather than reading the detail and examining all of the contradictions. All you do is you spend 47 seconds reading TikTok, watching a TikTok. You don't even watch a full 47 seconds, and your opinion is formed, right? And that's it. That's your opinion. Now you're sharing it, you're commenting on it, you're sharing it with other people. And the power goes to who has the most emotional connection rather than who has the right answer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm 1000%. Jesse, do you have a comment on that? Because if not, I do.
No, go ahead. I have a whole lot I'm holding back on because I'm gonna
Don't
vent
hold
and
back,
rage.
Jesse. We're here to not hold back. Don't hold back, Jesse.
Go ahead and share whatever
Really?
you're thinking. Then I'm probably gonna jump in.
So I fully agree. I think one of the major problems is we don't have long-term thinking. And so you don't think about the effects of a lot of the power-hungry systems. And the fact that there's creators that go on, I'm using TikTok as a prime example because that's where it all started. And if you think about exactly what you just said, why do we have political candidates? I see more political stuff on TikTok than I do anywhere else, or on Reels, I should say, than anywhere else. And I see more political content and religious content and like global policy content and all this stuff on Reels more than I do anywhere else. If you want to know where to find something, go look it up. You'll probably see it in a reel.
Yeah.
Why is
know
that
what?
the case?
You won't believe this, Reesë, but there was a time when we got our political information from the nightly news.
I know.
Literally
And I
got it
remember
once a
that.
day.
I remember watching the news and I remember cable TV and I thoroughly miss it.
You know what? I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to share something I normally don't talk about publicly, but I love me some little baby Jesus. I like little baby Jesus. He's a buddy of mine. But you know what?
Way to
Hold on.
put that. Thanks.
I don't know. I've had this conversation's got me worked up, but so I love little baby Jesus, and I don't need some Hollywood A-lister, B-lister, or wannabe C-lister telling me how I should think
Just because they're famous.
when it comes to anything. Because, and I've sat here and I have not thought out most of this. Like, it's not, I will tell the entire audience, we literally had almost no concept of what we were going to talk about today. It was just whatever shit hit the fan. So,
Well,
they had an idea. That guy right there without hair had an idea.
that's right. That guy.
Pointing at you, Joe. But I mean, Reesë, you've seriously hit on something that it goes back to a conversation I had not long ago. Because, and I'll tell that conversation here in a minute, but you know, when you have all this short form content, you're literally training your brain to not pay attention to cause and effect. It's what you just said. That is so fucking spot on. And so what happens is you don't pay attention to shit. You don't think about the consequences stuff. You just think, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. Oh, probably shouldn't do that. Oh, that feels wrong. Oh, that's not right. How the fuck are we going to ever have another Goonies-like moment for anyone in America? People are so worried about being PC. People are so worried that we're getting an entire generation of sterile character. We're sterilizing an entire generation's character. You want to know why you have these like teenagers and tweens sitting on their fucking ass at home? Sorry, I'm getting pissed now. Sitting on their ass at home.
This is good stuff.
You are sitting there sterilizing them. You
Amen.
are shooting all this video. You're
Preach,
fucking
Jesse.
spying on them with cameras everywhere. You're
Yeah.
taking the power. You're showing them who's the boss. They have no freedom of growth and personal discovery.
No,
No,
not
I
at all.
did. I grew up in the 80s. Thank you. I grew up in the 90s. Thank you. You know, I know some on here probably grew up in the 70s. That's great. My daughter grew up in the late 2000s. That was at a pivotal moment, like she shared. But you know what? I sit there and I'm talking with my niece the other day,
Oh my gosh.
and she's literally sharing with me how, because she's been doing all of our awareness training.
Okay.
We've been literally testing. Some of our beta test groups have been enterprise. They've been Soho, small, medium enterprise. There's been students, you know, like middle school, high school, college, senior citizens. We've been giving them access to how does our system work? How does it feel? What's not intuitive? Do you understand the training? Does this whiteboard animation style fit with you? We care about this. We don't want to just throw shit at you. And some of the things I got out of that, like my niece having this conversation with me not long ago of how she's now like, she understands that she doesn't want to go outside because there's so much mental fixation and adrenaline and dopamine and oxytocin that is released. And while sitting on your phone on this short form content, looking at whatever, that even TV and movie, when we have fucking Marvel movies becoming boring to people because they
That's
can't pay
crazy.
attention to a Marvel movie,
That is
Now, people
insane.
may be having some problems putting out good content, but
I don't know. That last
Look
Marvel
what-
movie was a bit of a drag, but I get your point. Yeah.
yeah, we have a problem there. And
Yes.
what is this? It's all power hungry stuff. It's parents putting up cameras everywhere. It's the cameras going down the street. Cameras everywhere feeding in this data so that when a kid screws off doing something stupid, learning their natural boundaries in life that all of us did, and every generation before them for hundreds of years in this country. But now we're going to start
And
spanking them
now-
and disciplining them.
And now you're going to get questioned. You're going to get questioned about it in your job interview 20 years later. And if you get a speeding ticket because of that thing that you did, you end up, serving a month in jail or
Oh,
whatever
literally.
the rule is, right?
And what's
know?
crazy and what's crazy for me is number one now, because now the question is what do we do? Because going outside and
Well,
going
this is
and
where I
doing stuff
wanted to go.
outside-
Yeah. So what do we do?
Yeah.
Hold on. Before we get there,
Oh, well,
I want to
actually, I
make
was gonna say one
another
more thing, too.
one more point.
Fine.
All
And I was
right.
gonna say one more
Right.
thing too.
All right.
Not only have we got to this, I'm going to spank you over flipping everything way of life. I'm not
Yeah.
just talking about parents. I'm talking about school and society. And I mean, police sitting there just watching cameras to see what happens. They're seeing just to wait and see. Okay. The first of us without sin cast the first stone. I don't know, just saying. But, there's the entire other side of it. The side that Reesë and I look at every day,
Mm-hmm.
because now that same data that everyone else is watching, do you really think is absolutely secure? For those parents that have the Ring cameras in their house to monitor your kids to make sure they don't fight, like little Jimmy and Susie doesn't fight, and you have
Nobody's
these
watching.
cameras inside, do you think other people's not looking in your house? I can fucking promise you
They are.
cameras are
Yeah.
highly accessible,
They are.
and that shit happens. You are not the only one with
Looking
access
in
to
it.
that data.
I agree. And
Malicious insiders that work for the company, bad. You fall for a scam, someone gets your login and password, all sorts of ways it happens. Think about that as you want to monitor every little thing. The number of, and I'm just going to say Ring. I fucking love Ring cameras. Amazing product. But in 2019, they ended up with a class action lawsuit because they didn't have MFA. Judge ruled that they should have been requiring it. It wasn't, they didn't actually get breached. People were reusing passwords. You want to reuse your password? It's a good way to get hacked.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, your account gets logged in and people see your kids sleeping. They see you walking through your house in your tidy whities. That should be your fault because you were negligent.
agreed. I agree
And
completely.
then schools, the number of schools that have had data breaches.
Oh my gosh.
And
yeah.
even their cameras end up exposed on the internet, and people are watching students walking around halls and entering the bathroom, watching them play sports in the gym. Yes, that's creepy and fucked up. But you know what? It's happening.
Yeah.
All this surveillance is not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, power hungry.
I'm actually terrified of the surveillance. I mean, I think
agree.
that there's a huge issue with that.
Yeah.
And my question is, because I do see, and you guys correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I think there is this shift away from individual power towards this power of the masses. It's not even a defined thing. You don't even know what the benchmark is anymore. It's whatever the masses say you've done right or wrong, and it can change based on the day. It can change, certainly based on the year, and so if you're living in that world, there's this constant judgment and trying to manage it, and so the individual just loses agency, I think.
And that's the problem.
And it depends based on which bubble you're in, because there's a mass in this bubble, but if you step out of this bubble and go into this bubble, there's a whole nother mass with a whole nother set of rules. So you don't even know how to behave over here.
All
because-
created by these algorithms that Reesë's talking about with short form content that builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and puts you in a bubble.
Yep.
We don't
Reesë-
by the way, we don't naturally belong in bubbles, because there was a long time when we could have political debates and not hate each other. There was
Oh,
a
and be
long
civil,
time when we
yeah.
could disagree. We could disagree and not be enemies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a bizarre thing that we've taken on now, that we say, oh, if you don't agree with me, if you're not part of my bubble, not only do I disagree with you, but I hate you and you're my enemy and I'm going to start calling you names.
Even back when it was like, Kennedy and Nixon would debate, and it was always my esteemed colleague, the esteemed gentleman from, there was always this cordiality and this respect and this formality for the other side. And now it's like that lying, cheating, locker up. And that
Nazi or that brain dead, Yep.
Because that's what creates the soundbite that you can play over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So what do we do, guys? we're going to have to wrap up at some point, even though this has been a great conversation. I've had more fun today than I've had in a long time. But
All right.
to do a part
what
two.
do we do? Like, does that mean, is it just we have to put MFA on everything? Do I get rid of, take Alexa out of the room?
Go
Do
ahead.
we have to fight against Palantir? Like, what do we do?
You can go ahead, Jesse, but I got an idea on this.
I want to go first because I know that you'll probably wrap this up because of what you said earlier. So you said that the power needs to be back in the people's hand. You were talking about that earlier in the show. And that's the fucking truth. People need to be able to opt out. People need to be in control of their own data. And I mean, look at Europe, GDPR. It's absolutely horrible for companies to work with. It is so difficult, but it is an amazing thing in the fact that people own data.
Yeah.
Now, it goes so far as that Joe commits a crime. Now, is he convicted? No. He's a suspect in a crime. What happens in America when we have a suspect of a crime? Their
You don't want
picture
TV and
is
you crucify
all
him.
across the TV. What if Joe doesn't want that?
They
Well,
can say
Joe,
no.
I mean, Joe's not been convicted. You're supposed to be innocent
Innocent
until
or proven guilty.
Look, I was 4.5 years on pretrial house arrest, not convicted. It's all pre-trial.
And your face was plastered
Right.
You know what?
everywhere.
I was guilty in everyone's eyes because my name and my picture was shown everywhere as key suspect, as defendant, as blank. Did you know in Europe under GDPR, Joe could literally say, I don't want my picture and name to be shown. So when they go to put up his picture, they have to blur it out. They can't share his name because he did not give them consent to do that. He retracted that.
And
He
until
had
you're
the legal
convicted,
right.
you're innocent.
Yeah,
Yep.
but even once then, you can literally say, hey, I don't want my information shared with blah. Even a convicted criminal can do that. But then let's go. I'm a felon. I'm a convicted felon. In some places and states, they talk about, let's get rid of the box. That box that on an application, are you convicted of any felonies? Check yes. Why? What about when it's 7 years old? What about when it's 10 years old? What about this reform? Well, we hold on to this data forever, and once a bad person, always a bad person.
Yep.
So, you know what? I understand, within a year or 2 or 3, I learned my lesson with 18 hours in jail. Now, I didn't really know what I was charged with. That's a whole nother story, but 18 hours in jail goes, dang, I don't even want to be put in that position again. I don't even want to work as an intelligence asset to be put in that position again. 18 hours of jail sucked. I don't need 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I was being charged with 86 years. I don't need 86 years to know I don't want to be put in that position again. 18 hours was enough for this dude. Now,
And yeah, it follows you forever, right?
it follows you forever. Why? Because power-hungry people with power-hungry systems that want to sell this data. Because it's all about selling data.
It's all about
That's
money.
what it is. Even to the media, to police organizations, it all has a money train behind it. Every power system, every power person has money behind it somehow. And how we solve that is exactly what Reesë was talking about earlier, is giving power to the people. And I think the only way to do that, and I'm gonna just open up now, and tell them how I feel. We need to have a constitutional amendment passed for American citizens to own and govern their own data in all forms, physical, digital, oral, psychological, sociological, economical, everything. We need that as a constitutional amendment that we control our own data and we are granted the right of privacy in all forms.
Agreed.
It needs to go under one amendment, and that's something that
The
we
right to
need,
privacy.
and that
That's
would
right.
fix so many problems. And you want to talk about scammers? Reesë has a startup company targeting awareness training and teaching how scammers work. You want to really screw scammers and put the hurt on things? Give that. Because now data brokers are going to go out of business. A lot of these things, it helps. It truly does help. Now, there's still the phone calls, emails, text messages, postal mail, and everything else that comes in. But how are they getting this data to target you? Go buy it on the internet because there's power-hungry data brokers. So there's my two.
No, I agree with everything you said. And I have a little spiel, and this is kind of my thoughts on everything. And so before I go into my little spiel, I should set like what I think of things straight. So I think of government. Government, like a lot of people would think of that as like 3-letter agencies. They would think of it as like the different political candidates, the courts, things of that sort. I also group it in very similar with massive companies and like lobbyists and data brokers and things of that.
I mean,
Not directly government, but they have high
but they're
government
impacting
influence.
governance. Yeah.
And that is where I kind of group them in with government in my brain. They all work together in each other's benefit. That is what I think of it as. And I kind of think of government the way that I kind of think of it as like a parent and child. I think a parent sets the standards and raises their kid, and then the kid is a direct result of how they were raised. I think whatever the body of people, whatever's going on in a country, and in this case, I'm going to say the U.S., but however the people's actions and whatever's going on and whatever issues are happening right now is a direct result of whatever's going on up above, high above in government. Because a lot of stuff that we absorb, they have influence on. Most of it, they have influence on. And if it's not them, it's an outside government. So it still has government to do with it, or massive corporations, or lobbyists, or data brokers, or anything of that sort. And I think that means that there's fault on both sides. If the kid is bad, that means that the government's bad, kind of in a sense. And I think, but both need to fix stuff. If you are a parent and you raise your kid a certain way, but then they come out kind of like they're rough, you have areas to improve. And just because you raise them that way doesn't give them an excuse to be a certain way. And so I think the whole like governments need to clean their act up, because having no respect for people and prioritizing money over everything is greedy. I think it's disgusting. And so I agree on that Privacy Act. We have like technology and everything was kind of just thrown at us, and we grabbed a hold of it, and we have been playing with this brand new toy for like 20 years, and then there's been no like anything put in place around it.
Regulatory framework, yeah.
And
No
we
control.
exactly. And we keep making laws that are directed at symptoms of it, but not root problems of it. And so that is what's irritating for me. And it's more of laws preventing like things that we're doing, and not laws protecting. And that's what's irritating to me.
Wow.
It's like, and I hate that. And so that's what they need to do. I understand money is important in government. You need it in order to make things spin. But if there's still a fundamental problem going on with your citizens and what's going on with like data and technology, and now technology affects everything. If there's a problem there and you're prioritizing money, it's going to be short-term gratification and short-term money for long-term issues. And that's going to be a long-term issue. And so I think there's that. On the people side of things, as like a body of people, we were always we were given the right to bear arms for good reasons. If we ever need to protect ourselves in a certain case, it wasn't like oh, things are bad. That's just the way we have to accept it. We got to go with the flow. If we needed to protect ourselves, we can. Now I think of that technology kind of in the same way. It's like, oh, they don't respect our data. They don't respect our privacy. They're putting short form content in front of our face. Everything's going digital now, blah, blah, blah. Guess we got to go with it. That's the way that things are. And I understand it's bad for me and everybody around me's doing it too. So I kind of just got to go with it. I think that's wrong. And I mean, like, yeah, I'm guilty of it too. I've fallen into the cesspool of it all, and I've done my best to clean up my act and work on my privacy, delete things that have short form content. And if I know it has short form content, I just forfeit going to that app. Instagram, I'm sorry, you're going to lose my business pretty much because you decided to incorporate something that's unhealthy for me. I'm sorry that there's going to be sacrifice with it. And I think as people, they can't keep making money off of us if we don't let them. That's essentially what it is. What would Meta do? What would schools do? All education has literally went virtual. Even if you go in person to school, everything's still online.
Yeah, that's true.
Everything is online now. And what would happen if one day we were all like, hey, we're going back to flip phones. Hey, we're going to like do this instead. Hey, we would like to, they're not going to make money off of us anymore. They're going to change their ways. So I think there's also an aspect there. Think of like how much money those big companies make and data brokers make off of just my generation alone. And how switching back to like flip phones or just trying to go back to simple is such a niche and so radical. It's such a radical opinion, but it's something that's so simple. And I think it's our fault that we see that as radical. Like wanting simplicity and wanting privacy is seen as a radical thought. And that is our fault. Now, yeah, they started it, but the fact that we're okay with going along with it is still on us. And so, especially after we've already recognized that it's an issue. So that's my thought on it. And I think it's going to take like a whole movement. It's going to be a whole movement and like an online war pretty much. That's what I think.
No, I think they'll have to be we either have to decide we're going to go the European route or we're going to go the Chinese route, right? And I think that it does take people realizing this and standing up against it and fighting it, because ultimately we still are the government, right? Ultimately we do still choose the government. Ultimately we can protest. Ultimately we do have the free speech rights, still. So there are, I think, opportunities for us to do this, but it is something that we have to take seriously, and we have to take seriously now. And we can't just slide into the
We're in that Mr. Miyagi moment now. Karate, yes, good. Karate, no, good. Karate, middle. It's like grape on road. Squish.
Yeah.
I did actually have one more thing I wanted to share is,
go ahead.
Reesë hit on it, is the perceptions of, she made me think about the perception of privacy. I know so many people, they think it's okay that the government and everyone has access to their data because they have nothing to hide. You have everything to hide.
Yeah.
You're a flawed human being. You were created, you evolved however you want to look at it. You are not perfect. And anyone that claims to be, there's a whole nother problem that you got to deal with. But with that,
anybody who doesn't do things in private, that says they don't do things in private that they don't want made public, they're lying.
You want everyone to,
yes, no, I don't.
You want everyone to look at your bank accounts? You want everyone to know every single personal detail about your life? That becomes a very uncomfortable thing. And so this perception of like, hey, if I'm going to plead the fifth, I've instantly done something wrong is not right. The whole, hey, they're a suspect on something, so they must be guilty is not right. And that all falls in line with, hey, if the police knock on my door, I should open it up and let them in because that's the right thing to do. I have nothing to hide. That's not right. Don't offer these things. Also, don't offer your privacy. Don't offer your data, because there are bad actors out there. there are bad things that can and will happen. Not even the bad actors. I mean, look at that AI system.
You're right.
Think about it.
Even the good
The
actors.
circle scores. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, hey,
Yeah.
guys, thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation, and I've learned a lot from both of you and really appreciate the insights. So, like, I feel like we have to do this again just so that we can keep
Yeah.
the conversation going. Again, thanks for taking the time, and see if we can get some people interested in taking back the power of their information.
Yeah, I agree. That would be awesome.
Yep.
And this has been great. Thank you guys, seriously.